This video will demonstrate the procedure to power down the high voltage system on the Pacifica 3.6-liter hybrid. Review the service manual procedure and all warnings, cautions, and notes before performing this procedure. Remember that when performing any repairs involving high voltage components or systems, the vehicle must be powered down and remain powered down. This must be done by removing the service disconnect. Failure to properly power down the system before repairs may result in death. Do not leave the vehicle unattended to ensure that no one reconnects the service disconnect while you are away. Always know the location of the service disconnect every minute you are working on an HEV. If you must leave the vehicle for a bit, recheck that the service disconnect has not been reinstalled while you are away. Before starting this procedure, prepare the work area and familiarize yourself with all high voltage safety procedures related to personal safety and vehicle safety associated with working on a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle or PHEV. Inspect all orange high voltage cables and high voltage components labeled with the high voltage symbol for physical damage. If damage is present, extra caution must be taken to avoid contact with unprotected high voltage. Do not insert probes, tools, objects, or fluids into the damaged high voltage cables or components. Disconnect charging equipment. Turn off the ignition. Remove the keys. Now open the hood and leave the vehicle doors open. Remove the air cleaner body. Now be sure your meter is working properly by performing the multimeter functionality tests per the meter's manufacturer's instructions. Verify the multimeter is operating correctly by measuring voltage from a known good power source, such as the vehicle's 12-volt battery. If at any point during this procedure you change the meter settings or reposition the probes, re-verify that the meter is working correctly by again measuring voltage from a known good power source. Disconnect the positive battery cable from the 12-volt Power Distribution Center or PDC and isolate the cable terminal with the protective cover 10084. Remove the high voltage battery service disconnect. Place the service disconnect in a secured area away from the vehicle. Note: personal protection equipment must be worn for the following steps. Safety glasses and HV gloves when removing the single high voltage interlock or HVIL connector and power inverter module or PIM cover. And additionally the apron, helmet, and shield when performing the high voltage measurements. Now loosen the two captive screws shown and remove the single HVIL connector from the PIM cover. You can now loosen these 5 captive screws and remove the PIM cover. Next, it's important to measure the voltage at the PIM terminals. First, measure between the positive and negative high voltage terminals. Secondly, measure the voltage between each high voltage terminal and chassis ground. If the measured voltage is near 0 volts, it is safe to work on all of the high voltage components except the high voltage battery internal components.
In the unlikely event that the voltage is greater than 60 volts, it means that the high voltage battery has an internal condition that prevents it from being powered down. It is not safe to continue work on this vehicle.
Do not attempt to carry out repairs on any of the vehicle's high voltage components or wiring. Contact the Star Center for service support. Always observe these precautions prior to taking an isolation resistance measurement. Have known good test leads. Set the test voltage to 500 volts. Always wear HV gloves and safety glasses. Now we'll measure the isolation resistance at the power inverter module or PIM high voltage terminals. First, measure between the positive high voltage terminal and chassis ground. Secondly, measure between the negative high voltage terminal and chassis ground. The measured isolation resistance should be greater than 1.1 megohms and less than 10 megohms. Compare these measured values with those taken during the high voltage power-up to verify the integrity of the repair. Refer to the service information for further details on this procedure.